Our next speaker had a little bit more success. Dave Chong is one of Canada's most recognized tournament anglers and media personalities. He is a city boy. He grew up in High Park. He fished in the Credit River, all the way over to the Rouge, up to the Holland River, biking there, which is amazing. Good on you. And he is an advocate for accessible, affordable fishing on the Toronto waterfront. And without further ado, Dave, welcome.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Brooke, for inviting me out to this. I'm just gonna lose some things over here because I'm gonna throw things at some people. Don't worry, things you want thrown at you. So. Anyways, sorry, Will, I missed most of your presentation. I was looking forward to listening to it, but I was thrilled to see Paula Fletcher to show up and give us the good news on the going-ons at Council. When I was doing my presentation, kind of putting it together, I was really struggling with what to put into it, and with the things that have been going on the waterfront, how do I do this presentation without, getting controversial and start, bringing up points that I was hoping I wouldn't have to touch on here. So it was great to hear that, and good on her, and I hope the battle goes forward and we keep winning. Anyways, I think I'm going to just continue on here. So I fish a few tournaments. I've been, competing for, over 20 years. I've been fishing for over 45, so, I wasn't sure I put those numbers in there because that kind of ages me. Everybody there, because everybody says, you look so young, but not really. I love fishing for everything. I am really addicted to tournament fishing, although I will fish for any species at any time. So I'm all about this accessible and affordable fishing for everybody. So anyways, I was born in Toronto and raised in the High Park area. Introduced to fishing actually at a relatively late age compared to a lot of people I've met. I don't think I fished until I was about 8 years old, and a good friend of mine, his dad, took his brother and myself out to Buckhorn Lake, and right from that moment on, I was, pardon the pun, totally hooked, and fished every opportunity I could. And living in the city, I was, and this is why it's such a big thing for me about the accessible stuff. When we grew up, we grew up in High Park. We weren't a poor family, but we weren't an affluent family. We didn't have a cottage to go to. So, to do things like fishing, I had to have access to it in the city. And in Toronto, as long as I had a bike and I could take the TTC, I could fish. So, and that's why it's so important to me that, people not be denied that access today, because it's part of what's, it's part of what's taken me and made me who I am today. So there's is this the, I got to figure these things out here. Actually, I had a Targa bike just like this, and that's what I went fishing with everywhere. I did ride actually from the house to in Hyde Park all the way out to Port Credit to fish salmon when salmon first started out, and trust me, I wouldn't want to attempt that ride today. But back then, we did whatever you needed to do, and coming to this hotel is really kind of takes me back, because this is where I had my first beer in a commercial establishment. I won't tell you how old I was when I was in here, but it is pretty funny that it's still here, and now I'm in here talking about this, and I'm going to maybe age a few people here. How many people remember Conroy Live Bait? One? You guys aren't from around here, are you? Conroy Live Bait used to be literally up this way about maybe 100 yards. And, when my parents started taking us fishing and taking us fishing trips like out to Hastings and to other areas in the Kawarthas, the trip would be to Conroy Live Bait first thing at, 3 o'clock in the morning. picking up worms and minnows, and the buzz of activity that used to be around here at that time in the morning was incredible because of all the fishermen coming to get their bait before they headed off. So I just, when I was looking at the pictures of the Gladstone here, and I'm going, Conroy live bait. I'm actually surprised that not more people remember that. But anyways, Hyde Park was a beautiful area to grow up in, Chinese family in a predominantly German, Polish, Ukrainian neighborhood was a little different, but we all got along, and I had lots of friends to fish with. So here are just I know a lot of people have talked about fishing in the GTA and Toronto area. This is just, and I know I've missed a few, but this is just a few of the lakes and bodies of water that I've had the opportunity to fish, in the Toronto area and in the GTA. So we've been all over the place. Unfortunately, some of them don't produce like they used to because, like the Lakeview Generating Station or the Hearn Generating Station, there's still fish there, but not like when they were actually operating. The fishing used to be absolutely incredible. I remember days down at the Hearn Generating Station, and we'd be catching, carp, brown trout, white bass, white perch, carp. You never knew what you were going to get on the end of your line, and that's so neat. It's so much fun and brings back all kinds of memories. I still try to get out to a few of these places. Obviously, my old stomping grounds was High Park, and I think I spent more days there than probably in Sunday school where I was supposed to be. Luckily, my parents never found out, although they used to wonder how I got so dirty going to Sunday school, but... It was that was my playground, my stomping grounds. We fished not only in Grenadier Pond, but we actually fished in a lot of the smaller little creeks and what we used to refer to as the duck pond and stuff, down in these areas here. And but beautiful place. It's amazing to have a facility like that in the middle of a metropolitan city, such a large metropolis that we have here. So it's and there's also a smaller pond. Some of you may or may not know it next to it, called Catfish Pond on the other side of Ellis. Spent a lot of time fishing there, and as you can see from these pictures, and I saw they were used in another presentation earlier on, but you can see that it's been used for fishing, and fishing activity has taken place there for many, many years, right back to the days when pictures were taken in black and white, So, and it's kind of neat. I was actually just down there in Grenadier Pond about maybe I'm going to say about 3 weeks ago, and some of the shoreline restoration they've done there is pretty incredible. Although some of it kind of limits where the areas you can fish now, especially the fact that they don't allow you to actually put a boat in there. So, I still remember the day. How many people remember the days when you could rent rowboats at Hyde Park? Come on, there's got to be a few of you out here. Okay, I'm not the only old person in here, right? But we used to rent a rowboat, and I still remember when I first bought a float tube, and I went out in Grenadier Pond in my float tube and got to access the far west side there, which you don't normally because of the houses on the west side there. And there's some absolutely incredible fishing, some great bass in there. I remember when pike kind of showed up and all kinds of things. I even when the crappie showed up in there, it was they kind of boom and bust, but that was a great time. And then one year, gizzard shad showed up in there, and I was trying to figure out how these fish got in here, but over the years I've seen some very, very interesting. I even caught actually, I don't know how it got there. I've never seen one since. I've never seen anybody else catch one, but I actually caught a walleye in Grenadier Pond. This was many, many years ago, and so a great area to go to in Toronto. Here are some of the places that I've been to and that are accessible for fishing. Until I was told I couldn't at Ontario Place, I used to fish there all the time. In fact, I spent my summers working at Ontario Place, and that was probably the best summer job I ever had, because I could ride down on my bike, get into the grounds before it opened, fish for about 3 hours in the morning, had it all to myself. There wasn't anybody else around. Caught largemouth bass, I caught pike, I caught crappies, I caught goldfish, you name it, and then go to work, actually make some money, and afterwards have a few drinks at the bar, and and so forth. So that's as a 19-year-old kid, yes, I was 19 when I was there. It was a great place to spend your summers. I'm sure there's a few guys here who are very avid shore fishermen in Toronto, and I'm sure they've been to all these places. And there really is Toronto. My title of my presentation is Toronto is Fish City, and nice shirt over there, by the way, Dave. And the great thing about the city is you really don't need a car to get around to fish. If you have a bike, you can TTC ticket, you got a Metro Pass, whatever, you can get around to so many places. There's rental bikes you can take in the city and just ride there, put it back in the thing, go fish for a while, go take another bike and ride back to where you want to go. Pretty neat. And there's some cool things that I wish they had maybe when I was fishing, like this little rod holder thing for your bike. I used to have a knapsack which I cut the hole out of the back and put the thing, and then we got really smart about it, and we took little straps and we tied them across our bike there to carry rods around. But that's a pretty neat thing I saw, and that'd be handy to have today when you're fishing on a bike. And sorry, I didn't see Charles here. I apologize. I did not using his pictures, but these are some of the fish that I've. In fact, the next few screens, these are fish that I've caught. I've caught all of these fish in the Toronto and GTA area. So when we talk about biodiversity as far as fisheries go, I think in North America, Toronto probably has one of the greatest biodiversity. It's the most diverse of any city around. So I don't know if I want to go through all these and tell you what they all are, but we got crappie there, we got white crappie, white perch, white bass, rock bass, pumpkin seeds, bluegill, smallmouth, largemouth, perch, and even creek chub. It's great thing about fishing, it doesn't have to be a game fish. And I know there's some people out there who, and unfortunately some of the people I compete against in bass tournaments, it's all about bass fishing, but fishing's fishing. We used to have a great time going down to the Humber River at Old Mill with little ultralights, and we'd be fishing for creek chub. It's not a game fish, but you know what? It's still something tugging at the end of your line. It's still a great day. It's a great way to spend time. You don't have to be, chasing bass. And by the way, that booklet is phenomenal. The Conservation Authority sent me a copy a while ago, and I couldn't believe the job that everybody had done on it. So. Again, I know everybody's been congratulated, but from myself, congratulations to the whole team that worked on it. Awesome job. But we got, common carp here, goldfish, mirror carp. How many people have caught a mirror carp here? Probably the carp guys have. You guys haven't caught a mirror carp here? Yeah. There are mirror carps here. Actually, you'd be surprised. I caught the mirror carp. I caught it in Catfish Pond. Right by Ellis there, and I wasn't sure if it was diseased at first until I, when it was missing all its scales, almost only had a few scales, and until I actually went in and looked in the book and said, oh, it's a mirror carp. It's not a regular common carp. So, but suckers and drum, and we used to catch. I don't know how regular it is anymore, but we used to catch American eel down at the Humber River, quite regularly. And that's, that was always surprising, of course, brown bullheads, and probably the favorite fish of most of the harbor and shoreline fishermen down front, the old northern pike, the old snot rocket. Except they get pretty big down there. What's that? Bullfins, yeah. Yeah, I actually missed a few here, and bullfin and smelt were the two fish I missed here. So, but we have caught all these. brown trout, Chinooks, coho, Atlantics, rainbows, brook trout, lake trout. All these species I've caught here in the GTA area. There's a list of most of them, and it's interesting that Toronto is such a multicultural, diverse city, and yet and we have the same diversity in our fishery here. So I think that's a pretty neat thing to have and to be proud to be part of. There's some fish, and maybe a good friend of mine, Tero Murata, is probably one of the most well-known urban guides around. And if you have a look at this fish here, he caught this spring, and I still slap him about it every now and then. But this white bass here probably would have beat the Ontario record by about 2 pounds. Except he didn't realize that the Ontario record was only 3 pounds. This fish was over 5. It was probably less than a pound off the world record. So that's the kind of fishery we have right here at our doorstep, waterfront. Pike, rainbow, carp, and like I said, it's a world-class fish. We're not just talking, any kind of fishery, right? So, in summary, in the Toronto and GTA area, you can fish from shore, obviously now, and we're making a big push on including the Toronto waterfront. We hope to keep it that way. You can fish in Lake Ontario, a pond, a stream, Toronto Park, conservation area, from a boat, canoe, kayak. How many people are kayak fishing these days? I am getting a kayak next year. I have a 21-foot bass boat, but you know what? I am getting a kayak next year. Because this is the coolest thing. And some of the kayaks I've seen are just totally outfitted for fishing. It's incredible. Once you can pedal, you don't have to paddle. My friend from the Get Real site, Andy Hansen, has a Hobie, which he can stand up in it. It's incredible. There's Tero again with a nice pike from the Toronto Islands there. I probably met Tero about 10 years ago. We worked on a project called Fish City, and Dave is nicely sporting our shirt over there. And we are great friends. I cannot put into words how good of a fisherman this guy is and how good of a guide he is. A big thing, especially with this weekend coming up, I host an event called Catch a Dream. And we're holding it out at Sybil's Point Provincial Park this Saturday. It's about getting kids from the Big Brothers organization, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, children who, are underprivileged for whether it's financial reasons or for on the parent side, and getting them out and introducing them to fishing. It's so important. Like if my friend's dad didn't take us out fishing, I would have never gotten into it. So I think it's very important if you love fishing, make sure you sometime during the year take a kid out fishing. And this is a fairly new site on nationalprostaff.com. There's some great fishing reports there, and we publicize this event for the TRCA on it as well. And if you want to follow me there and find out what we're doing and if I have any news, obviously I post it up on there as well. Got little reports going up there constantly. And other than that, that's it for me. Thank you very much for having me out, and let's all go fishing.